Welcome Bitcoin friends, it's Bitcoin Mamo. Today we're going to look at the Bitcoin charts. We'll do some TA, look at various time frames, and we'll also take a look at market cipher. So I want to start here on the 2-week chart for Bitcoin. You can see we have these fib levels. This is from the bottom of the stock market crash to the 69k high. The 382 level is at 44,120. And doing the fib retracement from the 29k low to the 69k high. We see the golden pocket in that same area. The 618 level is exactly in line with the 382 level. We can see we have had this bounce, and currently we are back inside the golden pocket. This is on the 2-week chart, so this candle will close at the end of the week. We can also see this order block here in blue from this red candle in an uptrend. This is an area of supply and demand. Comes of interest later on when we interact with that level, can act as support or resistance. So we have to see if this 2-week candle can close back inside this order block. To be able to do that, we would have to close the week above 45,238. We also have a couple of trend lines drawn. This bottom trend line here connecting the overall lows. This trend line connecting these two highs, and a trend line connecting the 69k high with this previous attempt to push higher. And what's interesting here on the 2-week chart, we do see all three of these lines do pretty much intersect at the same point here, and that will be in line with our next 2-week candle. The intersection of these three lines occurs at around 41,200. So this could possibly become a key area on the following 2-week candle if we do spend some time in this range. We were postulating that we're doing a similar thing to the bottoming action here between 30 and 40k. We can see on this candle we wicked lower than the previous week. Then we spent a few more weeks before we started moving to the upside. So we could possibly do a similar thing here. We went down to the weekly time frame now. We did close the week below the golden pocket area. In this current week, we have had this nice bounce from the 39k area to the high 43,000 area. We see a similar intersection of these lines. We can see on the weekly that would happen in a couple of weeks. What's interesting with this weekly close we just had here is we can see we've made higher highs here when looking at the bodies of the candles. But when looking at the RSI, we did actually make lower lows when looking at that same point. So this is just a horizontal line here, and we can see we made slightly lower lows. So this is hidden bullish divergence between these points. And on the weekly time scale, we would need to engulf this previous red candle, or at least get above it in the following weeks for that hidden bullish divergence to be confirmed. And that would have to take us above 47,300 approximately. In that previous video, I did mention that in this current week that we've just opened, if we were to spend the whole week below this EMA ribbon without touching it at all, so opening and closing a candle below that ribbon, then I would think we would have further downside, possibly to the $35,000 area, and we could possibly be entering a bear market. But as we can see with this recent pump, we have come back up and clipped this EMA ribbon. So for me, we have done what we needed in this weekly candle for the time being. So for me, that potential downside to 35 is ruled out for the time being, unless we open any following weekly candles, open and close below this weekly EMA ribbon. At the VPVR now, the amount of volume traded at certain price levels, we see the most amount of volume was traded at 47,370. So there will be some resistance in this area. This yellow block is where that 2-week order block is. And these blue blocks are the weekly order blocks. You can see from this green candle in this downtrend, and this red candle in this uptrend, and also this green candle in this downtrend. And down to the daily time frame now, all these trend lines are the same. We see that intersection between all three. This is around the 24th, 25th of January, and at around a price of 41,900. We can see we have broken this orange trend line here, just connecting the tops. So that is a good sign for the bulls. We haven't closed this daily candle yet though. And matching that up on the RSI here, just connecting these highs, we can see that we did break the RSI trend line on this candle. It did give us a little bit of an early indication that we're going to break this orange trend line. But obviously the main trend line to break here is the one connecting the overall highs from this 69k peak, and currently on this daily candle that trend line is at around 46,300. It is descending quite quickly, so on tomorrow's candle it would be down to 46,000. So this trend line is descending about $300 a day. Going up the daily EMA ribbon, we can see we do have that resistance starting at around 45,000. And very often we don't break the ribbon on the first attempt here after trying to recover. Quite often we will make a W shape with a higher low. And on the second attempt, there's a greater chance of trying to break this ribbon. The top of this ribbon is currently at 49,000. You can see this ribbon has been keeping us down all the way down since we did break below it from that 69k drop. We have all these order blocks on the chart. This orange one is the 2-week order block. These yellow ones are the weekly order blocks, and these blue ones are the daily order blocks. We can see we didn't have many daily order blocks below this one. We have managed to come back into this order block. Currently we are above it, but we still have to wait for the daily candle to close. The top of this order block is at 43,200. The bottom of the order block is at 42.7. You can see we did wick into this second order block here, which is between 43,850 and 44,600. So this does need a bit more time to play out to see how we do interact between these two order blocks. On the more bearish side, as we showed in that intro, we are getting close to a death cross here. This yellow line is the 50-day moving average. The red one is the 200-day moving average. And this is likely to happen within 2 or 3 days here. And as you saw in that intro, a lot of the times we did have a small drop followed by a decent rally. Quite often with these death crosses, what I've noticed is the yellow 50-day moving average will go below the 200-day, and then we might get some resistance on it at first, but once we start getting above it and using it as support, it can carry us higher until we see that golden cross on the other side. And just looking at the previous price action here between 30 and 40k, we can see that we got that death cross here. We did go a bit lower than that was the bottom. We came back one more time, make a higher low looking at the wicks. And then we can see once we got above that yellow 50-day moving average, started to see on the reverse the golden cross happen about 3 months after the death cross. We can sometimes go into the cross quite quickly. As we can see here, we were moving up quite nicely. And then we got that golden cross and we did come into that cross. If we were to do that, perhaps we come into the cross, we come back down to retest the trend line and then move higher. But it is early days on this move to the upside. We'll have to see how it plays out day by day. Looking at the stochastic RSI, we have got above that key 20 area that we spoke about in the previous videos. So this is a good sign, and looks like we may move up here for a couple of days, possibly coming to this white trend line. And we did talk about this white trend line here that we did break above, similar to this orange trend line. We can see on this previous drop here, we did a similar thing with this blue trend line. Once we did get above it here, it did indicate that we started to move back to the upside, and you could draw a similar trend line connecting these highs here. We do also have this grey box drawn, which I talked about in a previous video, and this is around the 50 area on the RSI. This is quite a key level, and quite often when we get back above this level, it can indicate that we are going to go higher on a macro level. And just to show some of those examples again, on this previous drop here, we can see we got back above this grey box, and that was pretty much on this candle here. And then we did go on this run to 69k, and on this consolidation between 30 and 40k here, we can see once we got above this grey box, which was on this candle, also coincide with that 50-day moving average, we did start moving a lot higher, going from that 30k to 53k. That's one of the key areas I'll be watching on the RSI. If we get above that, it'll give me a lot more confidence that the bottom's definitely in here, and we're probably going to keep moving higher. And just comparing that consolidation again between 30 and 40k and our current price action. Here is that orange trend line that we've just gotten back above, and doing a similar trend line on the previous consolidation. We did get above it here, but we can see we came back one more time to test it. And then we did spend this time going sideways and back down to test the lows. We also had that death cross here between 30 and 40k. We are quite similar with this current price action, about to have that death cross. So these are still quite comparable here. Again, we don't have to do the same thing as this previous price action. I think if we can get above that 50-day moving average, it would give us more of a sign that we're not going to drag out as long and we're going to start moving higher earlier. And just comparing those two again, on the left here, this is the consolidation between 30 and 40k. This is our current price action. Just got a trend line connecting the overall highs from 69k and this previous rally, and also similar trend line on the RSI. And on the left from our previous consolidation, I've just got a similar trend line drawn connecting these two highs, and also a similar trend line on the RSI. We can see on this previous consolidation, we did break this white trend line here. We didn't break the RSI trend line until we got to this area, and that's when we really started moving up again. So we'll have to see if this plays out the same. Perhaps we are going to get above this trend line, but to confirm that we are going to keep going higher, we could look to also break this white trend line on the RSI as well as the trend line on the chart. Otherwise, we could do a similar thing here and maybe get above this trend line, but still come down and test the lows one more time while staying below this white trend line on the RSI until we do actually break it. So we'll keep following that and see how it plays out. And now I want to look at the 4-day chart, as we were watching these order blocks here, and they were relevant on this pullback. We do actually open a new 4-day candle in a couple of hours. And just looking at these order blocks a bit more closely, we can see we wicked down almost to the bottom of this order block. Currently we are above both of these order blocks. And again, we will close this candle in a few hours, so that would be a good sign if we close above these order blocks. The next order block on the 4-day chart is up at 47,500. And down to the 4-hour time frame now, we've got all those same trend lines drawn. We see a similar interaction here between all three around the 24th to 26th of January. You can see with that drop just below 40,000, we did actually wick below both of these trend lines, but we didn't close the body of the candles below it. We did come back up here. Now we have gotten above this second trend line here that connects these two highs. We did come back and retest it. It has acted as support, and we have pushed higher into this golden pocket area. A good sign for the bulls here is that we have gotten above the 4-hour EMA ribbon. We do need to see this flip with the yellow going above the red to give a more bullish bias on it, but it has been a while since we were above this ribbon. We haven't been above it since we were at the low 50k area. Looking at some fib levels now on this overall movement from 52k down to the 39 to 40k low here. We can see the 0.5 level here may be important at 46,000. This would also be in line with our trend line connecting the overall highs here, and also the area that was support on this consolidation, which may act as resistance on the first test. So we could come up here and possibly test that 46,000 area before getting a pullback, but we'll have to see how that plays out. When this fib level and this trend line interact within the next 12 hours after this video has been put out. We do see the RSI has more room to move higher here before we come into more of an oversold area above the 70 level. But there will most likely be some hidden bearish divergence. We can see we're already making higher highs on the RSI. If we don't get above the previous high of 46.6 here with a candle body close on the 4-hour chart, then we will have that hidden bullish divergence and would expect another pullback. And over to market cipher now. This is on the 4-hour time frame. We did see this blue wave get above the 0 line. It is getting quite high though, so we might be getting close to a correction. The 6-hour is also getting quite high here, but does still look like it has a bit more to go. 12-hour has been moving up here since this green dot on the 8th of January. We do see the blue wave starting to approach the 0 line. The money flow is still quite deep in the red though. The daily did get this green dot yesterday, and that did get confirmed. And we did see that is where we have gotten this bounce. But again, the money flow is still deep in the red, and it's going to take quite a bit before it does start coming back into the green. And just comparing to that previous consolidation between 30 and 40k, we were saying how similar this looks to it. And we had this middle of this consolidation, a nice move to the upside, then a bigger drop with a lower wick. Similar here, we had a nice move to the upside, a bigger drop with a lower wick. So whether we're doing a bounce similar to this, we're going to spend a bit more time here. Whether we're at the bottom like we were here, where we did get this major green dot like we have currently, and we're going to keep going higher. We'll have to see how that plays out. We can look at this yellow 20-day moving average here, and we can see it acted as resistance, and once we got above it, we did start going higher. So currently that 20-day moving average is at 46.3. So we'll have to see how we interact with that moving average when we get to it. The 2-day is looking to make a green dot now. This is closing off on the blue wave. We do open a new candle in a few hours. It's likely we are going to see a green dot on that one. The 3-day will also open a new candle in a few hours. We might be getting close to a green dot. We'll have to see how it is when it opens. And even the 4-day opens a new candle in a few hours. So we have quite a few time frames all opening new candles in a few hours. The 5-day doesn't open a new candle in a few hours, but the 6-day, which we're currently looking at, does. We can see this blue wave still coming down, and it possibly has a few more candles before we see a green dot. And that's why for me, I'll be looking for a green dot on the weekly time frame to be absolutely certain that we're going to start moving higher on a macro time frame. We can see that previous consolidation between 30 and 40k. That green dot came after this nice candle to the upside, and then we spent several months going higher from 30 to 69k. So there is a big opportunity here, I think. Once we do get that confirmation, we'll have to see how long that takes. That's why for me, I think we might spend some time between 40 and 46,000 and just grinding out that area for a bit longer for possibly a few more weeks. So I want to look at that on Market Cipher now, looking at all of those daily time frames in comparison with the previous consolidation. So on the left here, this is between 30 and 40k, and this is our current price action. Looking at Market Cipher now, in comparing both of those, as we said on the left, the previous consolidation. This first row here, we can look at these zeros to know which row it is. This is the 1-day time frame. This is the 2-day, the 3-day, the 4-day, the 5-day, the 6-day, and finally the weekly. And the same with our current price action here on the right. So we can see we have that daily green dot at the moment. We also open that 2-day, the 3-day, the 4-day, and the 6-day candles tomorrow. So we can look for possibly green dots on the 2 and the 3-day. But as we can see, the previous consolidation here between 30 and 40k, there was a few times we got the green dots first here on the 1-day, then the 2, then the 3, then the 4, even the 5-day. But then we did have a drop back down. We wicked lower than that previous wick, and so we didn't get to the weekly green dot. And then we did build it up again, the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, and the 6-day. And then we didn't quite get that weekly green dot. We grinded out the lows one more time. And then finally we got the 1 to the 6-day green dots, and finally that weekly green dot. And that really confirmed that we had bottomed out and we were moving higher. We can see on our current consolidation, we did get the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4 day, but didn't carry through to the weekly here. And then we did have that drop. We made a lower low compared to the wick down, and we'll have to see how this plays out. But that's why I'm looking for that weekly green dot to really confirm that the bottom is in and we're going to move higher on a macro time frame. We'll keep following this as these green dots do appear, whether we do something similar to this, where we spend some time consolidating for a few more weeks before we do get that weekly green dot. We'll have to see how this plays out. So I think that's about all. That was quite a long video with a lot of information. There was a lot to talk about. I think it's a really good sign that we did touch the weekly EMA ribbon on this new weekly candle. Gives me confidence that we are going to drop down to the 35K area. And as mentioned, I think we're still going to grind out this area for a few weeks before we start going higher on a macro time scale. And I'll be looking for that weekly green dot to give that extra confirmation. In the more shorter term, we can see how Bitcoin interacts with this daily EMA ribbon. Again, the bottom of that ribbon's at 45.1. And normally on the first attempt, we do get rejected, possibly make a higher low before attempting to break it again. The other key thing was this grey box on the RSI at that 50 level has been a really good indication. We were going to go higher on the macro time frame here after a big correction. So we'll also be watching to get above that level, and also this trend line connecting the overall highs. So plenty of things to watch for over the next few days. And of course, we also have that death cross between the 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average, which is most likely to happen within 2 or 3 days. So some bullish, some bearish things. As we saw in that intro, quite often when we do get that cross, we do see an initial dip, but then we do see a decent move to the upside. So I think that's about all. Thanks for watching. I'm Bitcoin Mamo. I'll see you next time. Bye.